Back live tonight here on In Focus, and thanks for staying on. ActionSA leader Thabo Mdluli has once again conceded that the EFF never approached him to discuss any tenders during his tenure as mayor of the city of Johannesburg. He also fingered businessman Edwin Sodi in what he calls a questionable water treatment refurbishment contract linked to the Democratic Alliance. ActionSA Gauteng chairperson Funzi Ngobeni joining us now for more. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Thabo. Thanks for having us.
Quite a strange revelation for many when they look at it and they say, one, the timing of it, but two, the implications of it, considering that you are part of the Moonshot Pact. I forget the other name for it. But what would be, I mean, the cause and the motive around the timing of releasing this particular piece of information?
You mean about the EFF not approaching us?
Yeah, and about the Democratic Alliance, the DA itself being the one asking about tenders.
Yeah. No, Thabo, I think, Mr. Mashaba, it's not the first time that he speaks about this. In fact, it is in his book, Accidental Mayor, you remember, written by Michael Beaumont. He did speak about it there, and from time to time he reminds the DA and Tony Leon about it. I think even on Twitter, Mr. Mashaba has spoken about it on numerous times, and even going to the extent of tagging Mr. Leon on Twitter to maybe hoping that he will respond, but he has never done so. So it's not a new thing. It's been there, and I think even the DA, Mr. Leon himself, has not taken it on review or dismissed it, So it's still something that is on record, and I think repeating it now, it's just responding to a question probably asked by the journalist.
And what is your thinking then around forming a coalition of some sort at a national level with a party that has got a tendency to want to interfere in tender processes?
Yeah, look, I mean, that was almost 2 years ago, and Mr. Leon was also not in government. He's in the private sector. But I think the bottom line is that when you go into a coalition, you're not going to a coalition because you're going to nurse each other's egos and not taking each other to task when things are going wrong. You need to, at all times, be looking at the interest of the residents and making sure that if one of us do the wrong thing, must be held accountable. So it's going to be the same at local level, at national level. If we are in partnership in a coalition, if Thabo, you do something wrong, we must not cover for you. We must be able to then expose the wrong that you do, whether you are in a coalition or even within us. You'll remember even during his term, Mr. Mashaba would have fired quite a number of his MMCs from the same party that he was in. So it's that attitude that we need to adopt as political parties and then society, that corruption must be enemy number one, and we must deal with it wherever it comes from. So that's the attitude that we're going into this 2024 elections with. And if you go into coalition with the DA or any other party, they must not hope that we will cover for them if they do wrong. And we're not asking them to cover for us if we do anything wrong. They must expose us at all times if we mess up.
That's the one end of the stick, and then the other end of the stick, of course, is your view of the EFF and what would have constituted your working relationship. And others are looking at this as saying, ActionSA is cleverly positioning itself here that either way they could go in the partnership with the DA, but we know that your relationship with the Democratic Alliance is not a warm one. Overnight, you could possibly be fighting with each other in a public way. And you are positioning yourself to have the EFF as a fallback kind of party that you can also still form a partnership with.
No, remember, we are quite clear when it comes to the EFF. At local level, we have worked with them, and for 3 years that we worked with them, it was the most stable coalition, In fact, Mr. Mashaba is on record saying, the people that were more destructive in that coalition was our own members in the DA at that time, So at local level, we can work with the EFF because it's a service delivery issue. It's making sure that we patch potholes, that electricity is it's available for our residents, water is running. These are basic service delivery elements of government. And at the national level, that's where we are saying it will be difficult, considering that EFF have adopted a socialist approach, and we are in the middle. We want pragmatic solutions to the country's problems, and we will differ in most instances. So at national level, definitely not. There's no chance that we'll work with them. But at the local level, if opportunity arises, we're still open to work with them.
Yeah, which brings me to my next point. I mean, it's not a secret that you want Kabelo Gwamanda removed from that position, and you yourself would like to be the mayor of the city of Johannesburg. Is this again a stance of warming up to the economic freedom fighters around the city of Johannesburg?
No, by the way, I'm no longer in the city. I'm leading the province and preparing the province for 2024 elections. But indeed, I mean, we have been quite clear about Kabelo that that coalition on itself, it's a coalition of destruction. Nothing is currently happening in the city in terms of service delivery. We've got a water crisis now in Gauteng. We have been trying to meet with Johannesburg Water to establish whether they've got plans to deal with the water crisis. We have met with Rand Water, which is a bulk distribution, obviously, institution. But Johannesburg Water is not coming to board. We want to understand, Thabo, for example, that if they are losing over 50% of the water that they buy from Rand Water, how are they going to resolve this issue, And there's no response. And the mayor himself, he's been accused of not attending meetings with the minister. So he's incapable of leading. He's surrounded by people who are incapable of leading, and we think that it's just a pity that the DA has not come on board, and we hope that they will change their mind in accommodating a party like the PA, because we still believe that we need the PA in this coalition, not only at local level. We think that we need to bring them in even at the multi-party charter level, and that discussion needs to continue. But for now, we are focusing really on being in the opposition in the city of Johannesburg, and we are doing extremely well. Our caucus leader, Nobuhle Mthembu, and her team are holding this government accountable. They were in council yesterday. They tabled quite a number of progressive motions, which were unfortunately, declined by this coalition, calling themselves Government of Local Unity. But we'll continue doing our work in Johannesburg, in Ekurhuleni, and in Tshwane.
Are you, within the charter, convincing some of your players? Because when we even look at the numbers, however the cake would be sliced, right? It's highly unlikely to see an ANC that is below 40%. Right? It might drop below 50%, but it will not go that far off that mark of 50%. So for the charter, multi-party charter, to form any kind of government, the EFF is particularly going to be key in enhancing those numbers. Are you looking at still convincing the Democratic Alliance around that question?
Of working with the EFF?
Yes.
No, we are quite clear on that, Thibos. I'll repeat that at that level we will not work with the EFF. It's not part of any discussion. We've got a multi-party charter that is made up of the parties that you know about. We've just been joined by ACDP officially. We are pushing for a party like the Patriotic Alliance to come on board, and maybe other parties that might be interested that are still being formed, like your Rise, Mzansi, and others. But at their own time, when they are ready, they will come on board. But for us, we think that there is a chance that ActionSA can emerge as the biggest party in the coalition that will be formed in Gauteng. We are working extremely hard around the province, not only in building our structures, but on getting ready for the registration weekend, which will happen on the 18th and the 19th of November. We are calling on the young people to come out and register to vote. We are calling on those that have moved from provinces like KZN and Limpopo, who are now based in Gauteng, to go on the 18th and 19th of November and change their details so that they can be able to be eligible to vote in Gauteng. We strongly believe that we'll do well. Remember, in 2021, we contested only 3 metros in Gauteng. There's 9 municipalities in Gauteng. We contested 3 municipalities, and we came number 3. We even managed to beat the EFF in Gauteng, you know. So it's going to be interesting, but we are gearing up for a battle, and we think we will be ready when the time comes.
I see Thabo would have responded to that particular interview with the leader of ActionSA, Herman Mashaba, and said, asked the question, is this an example of the kind of campaign that you're planning to run in 2024? Are you going to be running a negative campaign?
Not at all, not at all. Tibos, we just came back from our policy conference here in Ekurhuleni, and we have adopted very progressive policies, you know, and I'll leave you with this booklet. Ours is to bring solutions. You know, our country is going through a lot. You know, the captain of the Springboks was being interviewed, and he said, you know, it's only South Africans that can explain this feeling of the win that we've just brought in the Rugby World Cup, and because we are going through a lot. There's so many things that are wrong in our country. And we need to bring solutions as political parties. When we go and talk to voters, there's no need of us repeating what is wrong. South Africans know exactly what is wrong. They know that there's no electricity. They know that there's a water crisis. They know all the challenges. Ours is to provide solutions, and our solutions are in this booklet, and we'll be focusing on that instead of really looking at our opponents.
And for yourself, I mean, what does that look like? What does that picture look like? Is it a picture of a ActionSA that has a majority in the coalition? And if not so, what does it look like?
In Gauteng, at least, we are working very hard for that. We think there is a possibility. You know, people of Gauteng have really, you know, warmly welcomed us in the political sphere, and they've seen what we are capable of doing. We are the only party in this coalition, at least in this multi-party charter, that is able to take the votes from the ANC, that is able to take the votes from the EFF, able to take the votes from the DA, and also being able to take votes from parties like the Freedom Front. You know, we are the only party that can be able to do that, and South Africans are aware of that. And they're looking for that type of a party that will be able to dislodge the current government. And ActionSA is the only option. So that's what we are working on, and we think that we will be you know, the biggest party in coalition here in Gauteng. I can't speak for other provinces, but I know my colleagues are working extremely hard in provinces like Limpopo, in KZN. We are doing extremely well. In the Western Cape, we are pushing, you know, beyond our weight even there, and we've actually seen the polls that have been coming, and most of them are not giving us you know, a chance, but people will be surprised come 2024.
Funzi Ngobeni, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming in this evening. ActionSA Gauteng chairperson there, Funzi Ngobeni, joining us.